What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the League FFB. Today, we're going to be talking some Dynasty Fantasy Football as always. I don't want to waste too much of your guys' time. We're going to be talking free agent quarterbacks, predicting their landing spots, talking about possible scenarios that could pop up. But like I said, I don't really want to waste any time. I got something to share with you guys. Let's pull it up and let's start talking these free agent quarterbacks. So the first thing really that we should be looking at is what teams are going to be in the quarterback market. And so I got this pulled up for you guys. You see, these are the teams that I think could be in this quarterback market. We do have the Panthers, the Texans, the Raiders, the Giants, the Seahawks, the Commanders, Colts, Buccaneers, Ravens, Saints, Jets, Falcons, and Titans. Now, for all free agent purposes, I would say I'm fairly confident that the Texans and the Colts are not going to be in the free agent quarterback market. I think they will be taking top rookie QBs. But everybody else, I could see a good enough chance or a slight enough chance that I do want to talk about them as free agent suitors, possibly. But I'm going to be taking the Texans and the Colts out of here for free agent purposes because I think they will be taking top rookie quarterbacks. But let's get into my first guy, and it is Lamar Jackson, man. Lamar Jackson is a free agent here. I know he can technically be tagged and all that other stuff, but I want to talk about Lamar because he is the big fish in this free agent market. You see all of this information from Spot Track. That's where I do take all of my contract information. They're the best in the game at it, so they are a great resource. That is spotrac.com for you guys if you ever want to check it out. But you see, calculated market value is $40.7 million for Lamar Jackson. They're thinking something like 6 years, $244 million long term, with the average salary of $40.7 million. Comparable players who have signed deals like this are Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Pat Mahomes. So good company, right? Now, for me, I do think that the best fit and the best case scenario for Lamar to get that type of money that he's looking for is if he goes to Atlanta. I think Atlanta would be a fantastic fit for Lamar Jackson. They have the cap space. I think they have some weapons there that he could play with, and it would really enhance what Lamar Jackson can do on the football field. But I think the second most is that he just stays in Baltimore, man. I think the tag is a real possibility. I do think that maybe they can come to a long-term extension. Not really sure, but the tag is that is a big possibility for Lamar Jackson this year. And then I think as a third option, possibly a team that has a little bit of cap space. I know they have an early pick in this year's draft, but maybe the Las Vegas Raiders, man. Maybe Lamar Jackson ends up being a Las Vegas Raider. He could go play with Devontae Adams and Darren Waller. But like I said, I think the most likely scenario is going to be, or the best scenario for him would be Atlanta. Most likely is the tag there in Baltimore, but I would love to see Lamar Jackson replicate some of that Michael Vick action out there in Atlanta. So let's talk about our second guy, right? And probably the second biggest name in this free agency class is going to be Daniel Jones for the New York Giants. Daniel Jones, coming off of his rookie deal, they're saying that the calculated market value for him is going to be $26.2 million per year, maybe a 3-year deal at $78 million total. And then some comparable players. I'm not going to lie, it's not great company, but comparable players are going to be Mitch Trubisky, Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jameis Winston. Now, for Daniel Jones, I'm going to be just very honest with you guys. I have 3 potential fits on there. I really do think there's only one potential fit, and I do think that Daniel Jones comes to a long-term contract with the New York Giants. And I think even if he doesn't come to a long-term contract, they can pick up a 5th-year option and have him on that 5th-year option this year. So I think that the New York Giants is the, quite frankly, only case scenario for Daniel Jones this offseason. But for funsies, I do think that the Tennessee Titans could be a good fit for him. They do have a little bit of cap space. They are one of those teams that could be in the potential quarterback market if they do decide to move on from Ryan Tannehill. And funny enough, is Ryan Tannehill is one of those comparable players on the list. Maybe he gets replaced by Daniel Jones, and the Titans get a guy like Daniel Jones for their franchise. And then I put the Ravens here because if Lamar Jackson ends up leaving, and maybe he does go to Atlanta, like I just previously talked about, the Baltimore Ravens are going to need a quarterback, and maybe they're willing to go give Daniel Jones some money to play in Baltimore and replace Lamar Jackson. So that would be my top 3 fits. But like I said, the New York Giants is very likely the only case scenario that I see happening for him this offseason. Now, I do have another guy here, and I think I have 6 guys total, but my third guy is Derek Carr. And really, for Derek Carr, you see 37.7 million is the average annual salary. So they're saying he's going to make more money than Daniel Jones. 3 years, 113 million total value. Similar guys are going to be Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, Andy Dalton. But I don't think this is out of the realm of possibilities. But really, when I'm looking at Derek Carr, for me, there's 3 potential fits, but I think there is a clear winner for me, and I think it's the New York Jets. Derek Carr would elevate that team to being a playoff team, in my opinion. They're almost there right now. They have a fantastic offensive line, great weapons in Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Breece Hall, an elite defense, and you bring in a guy like Derek Carr. I know Derek Carr isn't special by any means, but Derek Carr is a good quarterback at the NFL level. You bring Derek Carr in, it's going to elevate everybody around him. They're going to win another game or two just because they brought Derek Carr in. I guarantee it. And Derek Carr will love throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson. I just think it's the best fit, man. And they have some cap space that they could go get him. There's going to be some potential guys that they could cut to clear up a little bit more cap space. But Derek Carr to the New York Jets, man, that is my dream scenario for DC. But I do think that a second likely scenario would be the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr has visited the Saints already this offseason. I think he was there for a total of 48 hours for a visit on 2 separate occasions. So Derek Carr clearly has interest in hearing out what the Saints have to say. I think the Saints have interest in having Derek Carr play for them this year as well. So the New Orleans Saints could be a good fit or maybe a potential next home for Derek Carr. And throwing to Chris Olave would be a pretty good thing for Derek Carr. And then I think the third scenario that I have here is potentially maybe the Panthers decide to not go in on a quarterback here at 9 this year. Now, I think they should probably just shoot that younger quarterback route. But if they decide to go with a free agent quarterback, I think Derek Carr would be a good fit for them. He could come in, he could play with DJ Moore. Frank Reich has already talked about Derek Carr at the Combine. He's already talked about him a lot, saying that he's a good leader and that he's not washed up. He's in the prime of his career and all this other stuff. Frank Reich's been saying a lot of good things about Derek Carr. So I think there is interest there from the Panthers on Derek. But potentially a suitor for them if they decide not to go the rookie quarterback route. So Derek Carr, potential fits would be the Jets, Saints, Panthers, but I think the Jets is I think that's the money landing spot for Derek Carr. I think that's just the best case scenario all around. Now, my next guy that I wanted to talk about was going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Jimmy, calculated market value of $34.9 million, maybe a 4-year deal. Similar guys who have got contracts like this. It's that same tier of guys, right? Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill. It's those guys. They're good enough to be NFL starters, but they're not good enough to not be in controversies for getting their jobs taken, right? So I do think that Jimmy Garoppolo could have a couple potential spots where he could end up being a great fit. And I think really first and foremost is I think Jimmy Garoppolo could end up being a bridge quarterback or the next starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. I know they just moved on from Derek Carr, but maybe Jimmy gives them a chance to just reset. Jimmy Garoppolo does have history with Josh McDaniels. So there is that he could come in and have a little bit familiarity with the offense from their time in New England. And Jimmy Garoppolo could really just be the next quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. And it's nothing special, but I think it could be something there, especially if they end up taking a quarterback at 7 that maybe needs a little bit of time to rest or a little bit of time to learn the NFL game. But I don't know, man. I just feel like Jimmy Garoppolo could be a decent fit here in Las Vegas. Now, I do think the second most likely scenario would be that he does end up taking that Derek Carr all the things that I just said for Derek Carr. Jimmy Garoppolo, you could say the same things here. The Jets are a team that's ready to win. If Jimmy wants to go play for a contender, New York is the place for him to go. And like we said, he has ties with the coaching staff there. Robert Saleh, he came over from San Francisco, so there is the San Francisco ties. I think the Jets would be a decent spot for him to land. And then lastly, I think the Washington Commanders could be a sneaky spot and maybe a potential suitor that most are not really looking at right now. Maybe it's a guy or a team that's flying under the radar. But Ron Rivera has somewhat committed to Sam Howell, but kind of retracted it later this week. I think that they're going to be in the market a little bit more than we think for a veteran quarterback or maybe a guy to come in and compete and try and do a camp battle with Sam Howell. But Jimmy Garoppolo to the Commanders, wouldn't hate it, especially if it was a 1 or 2 year kind of bridge prove it deal. But Jimmy Garoppolo, potential fits, Raiders, Jets, Commanders, and I think the Raiders is the most likely case scenario. Now I do have 2 guys left, right? My second to last guy is going to be Geno Smith. Geno just played his ass off for the Seattle Seahawks. He said everybody wrote him off, but he didn't write back, and the story goes on and on, comeback player of the year, right? Now they're saying that he's kind of worked his way into this calculated market value of $39.3 million. In my humble opinion, I think that is quite high, and I would not be comfortable paying Geno Smith this type of money. But a 2-year deal at about $80 million is what they're saying it's going to look like. Derek Carr, Stafford, Kirk Cousins, again, we're looking at the same guys here, Matt Ryan. But I do think that Geno Smith's best case scenario is to stay right there in Seattle. You got the comeback player of the year. You look good. And Pete Carroll has made things happen for you. Don't change you got a good thing, Geno. Don't change it, man. Stay where you're at, assuming that they want to keep you there. So I think that the Seattle Seahawks is the best case scenario for Geno Smith. But if Geno ends up wanting to leave and the Seahawks are not willing to pay him the money that he's asking for, I would say that 2 potential suitors would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington Commanders. Like I've mentioned, the Commanders are going to be a team that is going to be sneaky in the free agent hunt. Geno Smith, like I said, he could be one of those guys that comes in, has a camp battle with Sam Howell. They kind of make him work and earn that job again, see what they have over there, and just beef up that quarterback room. But the Buccaneers, I think they're going to be looking for a veteran there to kind of compete with Kyle Trask, to kind of maybe even just start over Kyle Trask. I don't know. They've been fairly supportive of Kyle Trask over the last couple of days, but post Brady is going to be a little ugly. I do think that they need to keep the door open for a veteran quarterback to come in because they do have a decent roster around him. I mean, they were just a playoff team last year. I think Geno Smith to the Buccaneers could be something that's flying under the radar that most would not think about. But again, you got a good thing, Geno. If you don't want them to keep calling, go back to Seattle, man. So I would say that that's the best fit for him. And then my last guy, everybody's least favorite player, is Baker Mayfield. But hey, look, let's not get on Baker too much because I do actually think Baker has a little bit in the tank. I do think Baker's talented enough, and I do think that there's a situation this offseason where Baker can get a starting job. Now they're saying $6.5 million. That's by far the cheapest deal that we've seen projected so far. 2 years at $13 million. It's looking very similar to that Mitch Trubisky contract that he signed this offseason. Jimmy Garoppolo, Teddy Bridgewater, Mason Rudolph, they've all seen similar deals. But I think the best case scenario for Baker Mayfield is to take this little 2-year prove-it deal and play with the New Orleans Saints. I think just the way that I see it, I think the Saints are going to be in on Derek Carr, and I think Derek Carr should end up going to the New York Jets. And if Derek Carr goes to the New York Jets, I think New Orleans is going to be looking for a guy to come play quarterback. And I don't necessarily know if they want to roll out Jameis Winston. And I don't know whether this is an upgrade to Jameis or not. I guess the future will only tell. But I think Baker Mayfield going to the Saints would be beneficial to all parties. The Saints would end up getting a younger 27-year-old veteran free agent quarterback that can come in, can lead the offense, can play with Olave, because you don't have a good enough rookie or a draft pick this year to go get a rookie. And you're likely not going to be in a cap situation to go get one of the top free agents. So Baker might be what you have to settle for. And the good news with Baker is if he ends up being good, you're happy. And if he ends up being bad, then hey, you might be towards the top of the draft board in 2024 and you can look at Drake May or Caleb Williams. So I don't think this is the worst case scenario. I think for Dynasty fantasy football managers and anybody who has Baker Mayfield on their roster, this would be a good fit for him, and it would be a good last-ditch effort to see if Baker has anything before he's pretty much written off at this point. So it would be a last chance for Baker Mayfield. And then I think, just like we said, if the Buccaneers want to bring somebody in to compete with Kyle Trask and maybe make that a little bit more of a competitive battle, Baker Mayfield, he's not going to cost you a lot. You see $6.5 million, you bring him in. I think he'd beat Kyle Trask in a camp battle. And again, he can compete with anybody there and kind of help that team get to their next step. I don't think you're signing a guy who's going to be your franchise quarterback in Baker Mayfield, but I do think you can sign a guy who's going to be good enough at the NFL level to get you along your way. And then I just put the Giants here, man, because I do think that if for whatever reason, I know I've said that I think it's a lock that Daniel Jones goes back to New York, but if for whatever reason the Giants do not re-sign Daniel Jones, they're a team that just played in the playoffs, man. They will need to go get a guy that can at least make this team somewhat competitive, and I think Baker Mayfield can do that. So I think Baker Mayfield could come in, bring a little bit of his swag to New York, and who knows, man, maybe they're a team that's good enough that even with Baker Mayfield at quarterback, they're still a playoff team. I don't know. They do have a tough division, but Baker Mayfield, I think the best fit for him would be the New Orleans Saints, but don't count out the Buccaneers or the Giants if the Buccaneers are buying and if the Giants let Daniel Jones go. So that is my free agent quarterbacks for this episode. I just wanted to keep it short and sweet with you guys. Really didn't want to get too much into it. Yeah, man, that's really it. So if you guys do enjoy the content, please, I know it's your every YouTuber thing. Like the video, comment, and subscribe, because when you do those things, you do help a channel like ours, a smaller channel, grow and get traction in the YouTube algorithm. That is the best way for us to grow. That is the best way for us to spread the message and really share the content too. If you have people who you think would like this content, go ahead and share it with them. Last but not least, we do have a free Discord in the YouTube banner. If you want to hop in there, have direct access to myself and like-minded fantasy football individuals, hop up in there. It's free, like I said, and start talking some fantasy football with us, man. If you've seen the channel, if you're a fan of the channel, you see sometimes we do trade shows. I take the trades right out of that Discord. So if you want to go in there, post some trades, I can review those for you as a member of the Discord. So again, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for supporting. I will see you guys on the next video. Lots of stuff coming up. Super excited. Let's keep talking Dynasty, man. Peace out.